First, there's a saying in politics that things are rarely as bad or as good as they might seem. And it's true. Almost no defeat and almost no victory is ever final. But this Brexit fiasco, well, it's about as bad as it gets. One of the world's great countries can't decide whether it's in or out of the European Union, whether it accepts or rejects the democratic vote to leave, and whether it can or it cannot work out a credible way forward. This whole shambles shows what happens when the people in charge don't believe in what they are supposedly trying to do. The British people voted to leave the European Union because, on a 52 to 48% result, they didn't like the Eurocrats in Brussels calling the shots over Britain's trade, Britain's immigration and Britain's economic regulation. And quite rightly, they expected their politicians would then work out a credible plan for a Britain that was, once more, fully self-governing and fully free to work out its own place in the wider world. The basic problem is that no serious person in the British government or the British Parliament has put up a credible vision for what a free Britain would look like. It shouldn't have been this hard. With Britain entirely in charge of everything, all it had to do was decide the kind of future relationship that it wanted with the EU and offer it to them on a take-it-or-leave-it basis, given that Europe has always needed Britain far more than Britain has needed Europe. It really should have been pretty straightforward, given that all trade between Britain and Europe is fully free of tariffs and quotas, and pretty much all economic activity and Britain and Europe is now happening under the same rules. The obvious way forward would have been a British declaration that all existing European rules would apply in Britain until they were changed, but that no future ones made on the continent would apply unless adopted, and that no future decision of any European tribunal would apply in the UK unless it was specifically adopted by a British one. The offer could have been something like this. Trade with the EU would be entirely free of tariffs and quotas, and there would be full mutual recognition of credentials and standards. There would be the free movement of people for work at high wages, but not for welfare. And all European citizens currently resident in Britain would be welcome to stay indefinitely and perhaps even apply for UK citizenship. And the ask would have been exactly the same the other way for Brits in Europe. And so-called divorce payments, well, none. Not a dollar, not a euro, not a pound, except for shared costs of ongoing joint projects. And with Britain unilaterally proposing free movement of goods with Europe, there would be no need for a hard border with Ireland unless the EU tried to make the Irish have one, and that then would be a problem for the Irish to resolve, not Britain. Back in January last year, British Prime Minister Theresa May famously stated that no deal is better than a bad deal. Well, only if she'd subsequently lived up to that solemn declaration. The problem thus far is that a bad deal, a very bad deal, has been the only one the EU has been prepared to offer. Basically, Britain has to accept remaining in a single market forever without any further say over the single market's rules. And May, along with much of the UK establishment, has been so terrified of leaving without a deal that she's been prepared to swallow this humiliation. Two things now are obvious. First, Britain should urgently prepare for a no-deal Brexit. If the EU wants to punish Britain, there will be some disruption, but people will cope. Britain has coped with far worse than a bit of delay at customs. And second, the Conservative Party needs to find itself a new leader. For months, PM May has been saying that the Parliament must decide. Now she wants the parliamentary vote put off, so it's her deal or chaos. No leader should ever present people with an unacceptable choice, least of all a British leader, given the British tradition of standing up to continental Europe rather than giving in to it. Britain will recover from this, but only with a leader who treats her country and her party with more respect. And of course, it goes without saying that renewed talk of a second referendum is just what the Remainers, or I should say the Remoaners, it's only what they want to keep people voting until the establishment gets the result it wants. Let's hope the people of Britain are a wake-up to what's really going on.